The threat came via voicemail.
The person you're trying to reach is not available.
Reverend Chuck Curry's number in Oregon is publicly listed.
At the tone, please record your message.
And the DOJ says the caller had it. Here's what they tell us the voicemail said. Hey, fake Reverend, you should know, being the anti-Christian piece of expletive that you are, that we are going to kill you. Torture first, then death.
And this, of course, was a very violent threat. It talked about torture and death.
Curry's a minister with United Church of Christ. They're a progressive church. First to ordain a woman, first to ordain someone openly gay.
Being first and being a little bit on the edge is kind of our thing. The pushback is oftentimes swift and sometimes violent.
Like that voicemail Curry says he got right before the 2020 election, also calling him Judas and an immoral degenerate. The DOJ says the caller punctuated those insults with a threat: prepare to die. The U.S. attorney says the person who left that voicemail is a dentist in our area, 60-year-old Richard Cantwell from Zephyr Hills. And prosecutors say Curry was not Cantwell's only target. No, the Department of Justice accuses him of sending threats to 42 different victims. Emails, social media, texts. The U.S. attorney says in one email, Cantwell spews, "You, sir, are a degenerate piece of expletive. Read your article about the great Donald Trump. I plan to F you up, just for the fun of it." Another victim got a written message: "You will die like every other N-word piece of expletive." It's the threats, the DOJ says, that made this criminal, and Curry knows it.
He could have written me an email and said climate change is fake, and I could have said climate change is real, and that would have been the end of it. What he did was something very, very different than that.
In court documents, Cantwell's then attorney said his client once served as a captain in the U.S. Army, did a tour in Iraq, and admits the dentist suffered from depression and post-traumatic stress. But the lawyer stresses Cantwell has no criminal history, though we did find a history of alcoholism while searching his dental license. Cantwell stopped going to group sessions for rehab during a relapse and wound up paying a fine. But the documents show that was all the way back in 2007. I wondered how more than 15 years later someone could deliver such violent, hateful messages.
He thinks what he's doing is right.
I shared the messages with Tampa licensed mental health counselor Patsy Evans.
Prepare to die. You won't see Christ because you are an immoral degenerate. What do you hear when you hear that?
Anger, vitriol, fear. This is somebody who's very, very angry, is feeling very trapped, and feels empowered through the threats.
Yet Evans thinks Cantwell truly believes he's helping in a righteous cause. In this case, his support for Donald Trump.
He really feels like he believes he is doing something for the great Donald Trump.
As for the Reverend who received that voicemail, did you reply?
No, I'd never reply to those kind of comments.
But he did send it to the FBI. And it's one of the threats the DOJ used to get an indictment against Cantwell.
You can disagree with someone politically without threatening to kill them. That ought to be a pretty basic bottom line for American democracy.
A line the DOJ says Cantwell crossed when he picked up the phone. Jeff Butera, Spectrum News.
This tree needs to stay here forever.
Lisa Gresh calls this her life-saving tree.
I'm glad this tree is here. I could really hug it. It saved my life.
Saved her life when she wrapped her arms around the trunk and clung to it for hours during this. Hurricane Ian 2 years ago. When it battered Fort Myers Beach, Lisa lived across the street from that Aqua building with her 89-year-old father, Jim. And they did something she now regrets. They stayed as Ian roared on shore, spawning wicked wind and bringing all this storm surge right to their front door.
You say wind howling or whistling, magnify that times 100. I know others said that it was a 15-foot surge, but I beg to differ. I was in it, and it went up above my neighbor's house.
And did this to their house. Before, after. During the storm, the house collapsed. Lisa wound up treading water in the surf. Her dad did the same, lying on a closet door until he got hit by debris. Lisa thought he was dead.
There was a board that hit him in his ribs that I had to pull out, and after that, he faded out.
Lisa was going to get help simply to preserve his body when the storm got too intense.
This is the tree I hung on to.
The tree became her only option for survival. She willed herself to hang on, knowing if she lost her hold, she could be dead too.
I gripped that thing so tight the wind still flapped me around. Everything I did was humanly impossible, even for a pro wrestler.
She can joke now, but the aftermath was no joke. Just look. When the storm passed, Fort Myers Beach was wrecked. Lisa was barely alive, her kidneys failing, and she assumed her dad was dead because she didn't know about the miracle across the street. He wasn't dead. Somehow he wound up in the parking lot of a restaurant next door. That's him lying on his back in the gray shirt.
1, 2, 3. Nice and easy.
Good Samaritans found Jim buried underneath the wood and debris. They didn't know how long he'd been there.
You're okay, you're okay. You're stay right there, bud.
He didn't know either, but it would have been his deathbed
Stay right there.
had they not discovered him and lifted him out.
Right there. Christina. Yeah. Stay right. Okay, oh, you gotta throw up? Okay.
He was in bad shape, disoriented, confused, shivering, and sick.
You gotta throw up. Turn that way.
I want you to watch his hand when the camera pans left here. It's shaking. He's 89 and just spent hours in a Category 4 hurricane. They cover him with a pink blanket. Lisa was wrong. Her dad is alive.
If you would have seen what I've seen, you could understand why you thought he had passed away and he just wouldn't respond. And come to find out, he took a 3-hour nap.
It was a story of survival, a miracle really, with what appeared to be a happy ending, just like in the movies. Except reality doesn't always follow that Hollywood script.
It's heartbreaking.
See, there's a reason Jim's not in this story.
Yeah.
As crews rebuilt Fort Myers Beach, Jim moved to Tampa Bay to recover and got COVID. He didn't make it.
And I said, Dad, I am sorry this happened to you. We fought a hurricane and I couldn't save you from the aftermath. And he said to me, he said, I'm 89 years old. Don't cry for me. Go sing karaoke and have a Miller Lite. And thank you for 10 wonderful years of island life.
Lisa does find solace in that moment on her dad's deathbed, and also in knowing that her dad's deathbed was a bed
Are you cold, sir?
instead of a damp parking lot covered in debris. Jeff Butera, Spectrum News. This story is about two people.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jill Schiffelbein.
Well, maybe 1.5 people.
Hi, I'm the digital likeness of Dr. Jill Schiffelbein.
The woman on the left is a real person. The woman on the right is not a real person.
My hyper-realistic avatar, as I like to call her, is my digital counterpart.
A video and vocal clone of herself that Jill created in a studio. She can tell it what to say, and it looks really human when Jill 2.0 delivers that message. And if Jill gets Jill 2.0, I want Jeff 2.0 for this story. Much better. So you're probably wondering, what is the point of Jill's hyper-realistic avatar? Well, she wondered if a lifelike person delivering a message would be more effective communication than an impersonal email, text message, or chatbot conversation.
So now, instead of just having words that are from, and let's be honest, we don't know if people are sending that email or not, we actually have words from the likeness of that person that we've already started to form a relationship with.
Imagine a video message from someone that looks and sounds like your doctor or your teacher. Just a little bit more personal communication if you can't do in-person communication. That's what Jill thinks is the good part about this new technology. She admits there could be a bad part of the technology too, though her hyper-realistic avatar wants you to know.
My human counterpart and I like to focus on the positive.
She also focused on if it would work. For her doctoral research, Jill used the University of South Florida Artificial Intelligence Lab to test her theory.
Their focus was mainly on the face.
She watched where people's eyes went, and then their facial responses to the avatar. and then asked what they thought about the hyper-realistic avatar too.
Understanding the capabilities of a technology like me,
Her conclusion? They can deliver an effective message if you're honest with people about what you're doing.
When you don't disclose and somebody finds out, they feel fooled, they feel deceived, they feel swindled.
Which makes me think I should tell you, these are just fancy editing tricks. There aren't two of me. Or three. But Jill and her hyper-realistic avatar are convinced you're going to be talking to one of these avatars very soon.
So is it replacing the human relationship? Absolutely not.
But
You can bring more humanness to a lot of the things that automation has kind of dulled down.
that was real Jill. Jill 2.0?
in 10 to 20 years from now, I can't even imagine what will exist. Who knows? I may be obsolete.
Is she a better version of you?
My avatar wakes up like that. This takes a little bit of work. So a lot of days, she's definitely a better version of me.
Though Jill will tell you, don't fib about who the real you is. It's me, Jeff Butera, Spectrum News.